Around 1200 BCE, the most advanced civilizations on Earth were wiped out in less than 50 years. The Hittite Empire vanished overnight. Mycenae burned. Ugarit sent a desperate letter begging for help, and was never heard from again. The people responsible have never been fully identified. DNA is now starting to reveal who they really were. Copper ingots, each stamped with a Cypriot mark, lay stacked like loaves of bread on the seabed off southern Turkey. The Uluburun ship went down around 1320 BCE, but its cargo tells a story that spans continents. Archaeologists cataloged more than 350 oxhide ingots, nearly 10 tons of copper, with 1 ton of tin nestled beside them, enough for thousands of bronze swords. Mixed in were African ebony, Baltic amber, Canaanite jars, Egyptian scarabs, and Mycenaean pottery. Each object reveals a world in which metal, luxury goods, and ideas flowed along routes that stretched from the British Isles to the Nile and the Persian Gulf. The shipwreck is not an isolated find. In Egypt, hundreds of clay tablets, the Amarna letters, record a royal conversation that crossed borders and centuries. Pharaohs and Hittite kings called each other brother, trading gold for horses and offering daughters in marriage to cement alliances. Their scribes followed a strict formula. To the great king, my brother, may it be well with you, your house, your wives, your sons, your horses, your chariots, your lands. These were not empty gestures. A single shipment might include lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, silver from Anatolia, and Canaanite wine, all moving under the protection of treaties and mutual trust. At the heart of this system was a fragile balance. Cyprus supplied copper, Anatolia sent tin, and the Levant acted as a crossroads for grain, textiles, and finished goods. The Uluburun cargo alone contained glass ingots colored with cobalt from Egypt and turquoise from Sinai, each meant for royal workshops. Items like elephant tusks and ostrich eggs, likely destined for palaces, hint at the tastes and ambitions of elites who competed for status through gifts and displays of wealth. The network's very sophistication made it vulnerable. Every palace depended on distant mines and foreign merchants. A failed harvest, a missed tribute, or a pirate raid could ripple outward, threatening the whole. As one archaeologist put it, this was the world's first global economy, prosperous, but as brittle as glass. The stakes were enormous, because behind every shipment and letter lay the fortunes of kings and the hopes of their people. The collapse of such a system would not just be a loss of goods, but a shattering of trust, order, and the known world. In less than a generation, fire swept through the great cities of the Late Bronze Age. At Hattusa, the Hittite capital, thick layers of ash and collapsed brick marked the spot where an empire ended almost overnight. Storerooms lie buried in soot, royal tablets abandoned mid-sentence, evidence of a government overwhelmed by violence around 1190 BCE. Farther west, Mycenae and Pylos, once the heart of Greek power, show the same scars: burnt palaces, shattered walls, and the abrupt disappearance of the linear B script that had tracked every shipment and sacrifice. In the Levant, Ugarit's last moments are frozen in a single desperate message. King Amurapi, cornered and out of options, wrote to his ally in Cyprus, "The enemy's ships came, my cities were burned, they did evil things in my country, help me." The plea was never sent. Archaeologists found it still in the ruins, baked hard by the fire that ended the city. The destruction was not isolated. Across Anatolia, Greece, Cyprus, and the Levant, dozens of major sites fell in rapid succession. Radiocarbon dates from charred timbers and pottery fragments cluster tightly between 1200 and 1150 BCE, revealing a pattern too synchronized to be chance. The devastation moved like a storm, erasing kingdoms that had stood for centuries. Egypt alone held the line, but only barely. At Medinet Habu, the mortuary temple of Ramesses III, carved reliefs and hieroglyphs record two epic battles, one in the marshes of the Nile Delta, another on the land of Jahi in southern Canaan. The inscription names the invaders Peliset, Cheker, Shekelesh, Denyen, Weshesh, and describes their advance. No land could stand before their arms, from Hatti, Kode, Carchemish, Arzawa, Alashia, they were cut off. The images show not just warriors, but entire populations, ox carts, livestock, women and children on the move, a migration as much as an army. Egypt's victory came at a heavy price. The pharaoh's treasury was drained, and the empire's grip on foreign lands was broken. The Medinet Habu inscription, decoded by epigraphers and matched to the archaeological record, stands as the most detailed account of the Sea People's assault. Their names are recorded, but their origins and motives remain lost. What is certain is the speed and scale of collapse. 5 empires, hundreds of cities, and the world's first international system, all undone in a single lifetime. At the crossroads of destruction and discovery, a new kind of evidence has begun to speak. Ancient DNA extracted from bones buried in the ashes of Ashkelon reveals a genetic fingerprint unlike anything seen in earlier Canaanite populations. Genome-wide analysis shows that individuals living in Ashkelon shortly after 1200 BCE carried about 43% ancestry linked to Bronze Age Crete and the wider Aegean world. This genetic influx appears suddenly, coinciding with the end of the great empires and the arrival of new pottery, burial customs, and livestock breeds. The story does not stop with people. Pig bones from the same layers tell a parallel tale. Before the collapse, pigs in the southern Levant belonged to Near Eastern lineages. After 1150 BCE, European haplogroups dominate, an abrupt switch that mirrors the human genetic signal. These animals, with their distinct mitochondrial DNA, arrived alongside their keepers, reshaping local diets and farming practices. Zoo archaeologists note a shift in feeding patterns too, with pigs consuming more forest foods, echoing traditions known from the Aegean. All of this unfolds against a backdrop of environmental crisis. Pollen cores from Lake Van and speleothem records from Sorek Cave trace a sharp drop in rainfall between 1250 BCE and 1100 BCE. Drought gripped the eastern Mediterranean for generations, pushing societies to the brink. The evidence from human and animal genomes, layered over climate proxies, points to migration and adaptation as responses to catastrophe. Yet the picture remains partial. The Ashkelon genomes offer a window onto the origins of just one group, likely the people later known as Philistines. For the Shurdan, Checker, Shekelesh, and others, no ancient DNA has yet been recovered. The coalition that swept through the Bronze Age world may have drawn from many sources, some still hidden. Each new sample brings the past into sharper focus, but the full story remains a mosaic of clues, not a single answer. Out of the ruins, new patterns began to take shape. In the Levant, shards of incised pottery from Byblos, and the carved lid of Ahiram's sarcophagus bear some of the earliest alphabetic inscriptions, dated to about 1150 BCE. Unlike the dense cuneiform tablets of the old palaces, these Phoenician letters are simple, compact, and easy to learn. Traders and sailors carried this script from port to port, first along the Levantine coast, then across the Aegean, and eventually to Greece and beyond. The alphabet's spread did not depend on empires or royal scribes, but on the resilience of small, independent city-states and the merchants who survived the storm. Meanwhile, a different revolution was underway in the workshops of Anatolia and the southern Levant. Archaeometallurgical digs at sites like Kaman Kalahoyuk and Beth Shemesh have uncovered slag heaps and furnace remains, with radiocarbon dates clustering around 1050 BCE. These are among the earliest known traces of iron smelting in the region. Compared to bronze, iron was harder to control in the forge, but far more abundant. As the old copper and tin routes broke down, smiths learned to work with local iron ore, producing tools and weapons that no longer depended on distant mines or fragile alliances. The collapse of the palace economies left a fractured landscape, but it also cleared space for new forms of exchange. Maritime trade regrouped around smaller ports, Tyre, Sidon, and others, where Phoenician merchants rebuilt commercial networks, this time less reliant on royal patronage and more on their own expertise. In Greece, the Age of Kings gave way to a patchwork of fortified villages and later, the rise of the polis. An archaeologist might say that the end of the Bronze Age was not a simple fall, but a transformation. The scripts and metals of the new era carried forward the memory of what was lost and the seeds of what would come next. Even now, as DNA exposes forgotten migrations, the Sea Peoples remain a coalition shaped by chaos, not a single foe. Their legacy is a warning. When interconnected worlds become fragile, collapse can arrive overnight. The ruins they left still echo in every system we trust today. Share your thoughts below.